Here
can your notification.
And we're in. We are live, I think. We're live,
yeah,
right?
We are.
Yay!
And now it is. Yay!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Harem Stream with all us lovely ladies and our special guest tonight. Can anybody guess who it is?
Who is it?
I don't know. Who could it be?
Swiper, no swiping.
Not that dumb. Yes, our special guest of the night, the king of the harem stream, is B. Claymore.
Hey guys.
Let's see.
Hi.
Hello, everyone who's joined us.
And for anybody that's out there that doesn't know who you are, would you like to go and introduce yourself?
Yeah. I'm a writer. I write comics. A lot of creator-owned stuff. Stuff for just about everybody: Marvel, DC, Image, Oni, Valiant, etc., etc. And excuse me. Also, just launched a YouTube channel about a week ago called The Comic Book Writer, which I guess I can put a link to over here eventually. Yeah, so I've been chatting with HP a little bit, and she invited me to chat with you ladies, so here I am.
That's wonderful. And we will be sure to put your YouTube channel in the description of this live stream when it's completed.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. It's very important. It's important.
No, the bottom comment.
I can't see. I'm drawing cats.
I like the old school typewriter in his logo. I love that.
Yeah, that
I
was
said it looks.
that was some fancy photoshopping right there. I took a Batman issue I drew and shoved it into a typewriter. And I actually had some people tell me that like young people wouldn't know what it was, which concerned me a little bit, but you know.
A
You
typewriter?
gotta know what a typewriter is.
Everybody knows what a typewriter is.
They might not use it, but they gotta know what it is.
I've had to explain some stuff to my son. Like
What?
yeah.
Oh,
I haven't had to explain well, no, I have. Yeah. I had to explain typewriter once because I used to have one.
I mean,
See?
so weird.
You never know.
And floppy drives, like he didn't get a lot of references that I had to explain.
Well, floppy drive kind of makes sense because it had a limited run, but typewriters were around for like 200 years, so
yeah,
or 100 years.
My favorite though is always going to be describing dial-up internet. Back in my day,
try
the fancy broadband.
Try describing doing a collect call.
Oh, true.
Well, even phone booths. I mean,
yeah. Poor Superman has no phone booth or underdog.
Yeah.
What would you do now that he doesn't have a phone booth? What would he go into? A bathroom?
I'm not sure it ever made much sense to change in a phone booth anyway, because it's not like you couldn't see into a phone booth. So
They did so
super
fast.
fast. Yeah.
yeah,
He doesn't need
He's
to
super
then.
fast, which means what's the difference between being in the phone booth and just
Yeah, it's
being
just
down
a
an alley real quick?
Yeah, like
Just run
Flash does
stripping.
it all the time.
yeah, it's just a hassle.
That was the funny little thing in Superman 1. They had Chris Reeve look at one of those little new style phone booths, and he's like, "What am I supposed to do?"
Yeah. And I did write a Superman story once where I had him in the supply closet, which was the other place he always changed.
Yeah, always in the supply closet.
Yeah, it was like one of those things that I had to write. I mean, like I had to figure out how to get it in the story where he ripped his shirt open in the supply closet and threw out the window or whatever.
Well, that's where he always did it in the George Reeves series. He always went to the supply room.
Yeah. Well, that's
Or he's in
really
an alley. Or in an alley, maybe.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
I also knew it was Phil Hester and Andy Parks drew it, and I knew that they could sell the hell out of a page of Superman pulling his shirt open in a supply closet. So I was thinking of them too.
That is probably the best way to see a Superman. You know, a little bit shirtless, a little bit.
Wait, no, he's never really shirtless.
Yeah, because he wears his underoos under his work clothes
all the time, pretty much.
In the dream.
Except
That's
for that,
Snyder to take care of for you and Richard, so you can enjoy some shirtless Henry Cavill.
Snyder did not do a good job.
That movie puts me to sleep.
That was not a good movie.
Well, what about Justice League? You get a whole fight scene with him shirtless.
It was okay. I mean, it wasn't the greatest.
I didn't like it.
It was really just. It was okay. It's not Wonder Woman.
What are you guys talking about? I missed one. What movie are we talking about?
Justice League. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't actually seen it yet. I'm not.
I've yet to see it myself.
Not a big fan of
it. Don't worry about spoilers. Don't worry about spoilers.
Yeah.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it.
The only thing I liked about it was like
Justice League.
The only thing I liked about it was Batfleck, Wonder Woman, and then I hated Flash so much. I want him to die, but he looks cool in action.
You and Ethan. Ethan was all like, everything was
stupid.
And he like just chucks a Flash toy across the room.
I need to see that.
Yeah,
he was so dumb.
Yeah, he was.
Wouldn't shut up. He's not intelligent. Even my little brother, he's been watching the Flash show, and he didn't like Flash in the movie. He's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you have a wisecracking character, the one that is supposed to be funny, it seems like some people can't bring that to life, right? Like they either have to be a complete clown.
Well, the guy who did it for the Justice League cartoons did it perfectly. The guy who played Lex Luthor in Smallville.
You know what's bad is my favorite DC stuff outside of the comics themselves isn't the movies, it's the animation. Like the animation is so good.
Like, some people are like, just forget the Marvel Cinematic Universe being live action. Just make a shit ton of cartoons.
If they could get the animation right, yes, that I agree actually.
Yeah,
and you could keep the same voices forever because you wouldn't have to worry about RDJ getting older or Chris Evans getting older, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It's cool to reboot it and get a new.
That would be cool, but I like their cinematic universe.
Well,
I like letting Marvel have the live action stuff and let DC have the animation stuff because Marvel animation tries so hard, but it's just not there.
Trying? No, there's a lot of budget cut. They cut corners a lot, I've noticed, and it's just not up to par. It's not up to par, darlings. I love artwork and stuff, but it's then again always like DC has a very heavy relationship with their animation company. Like their animation influences the comics as well at times.
Yeah.
That's a
okay.
Thanks to animated Batman, I can't imagine Bruce Wayne with a different voice anymore, or Batman with a different voice. And and I can't imagine Joker not,
Mark Hamill. Yeah,
sounding like Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill was all like, "I'm thinking about going to Marvel and doing a supervillain there." I'm like, why when you could be the Joker?
He actually did some over there in Marvel.
Yeah, he did Hobgoblin. Back in the day, he did Hobgoblin.
See, but he's known for his Joker. He made Joker, like
give him Joker, bitches.
If you couldn't put a specific voice to him, you could after that. So whenever I was reading all of their stuff in those voices.
Well, yeah, I could see that. But weirdly, I never had that issue. I always picture them with different voices depending on who's writing it, what kind of story and the art styles.
Okay, well, while we've got our special guest here, I would like to ask Mr. Moore, if you had your choice of any character in the mainstream comics, we'll say DC Marvel, if you could pick any character, who would you write for and why?
Man, that's a tricky question. So the truth is, the characters that I'm like most that appeal to me the most with Marvel and DC are like some of the characters that are off the beaten path a little bit. I've written some Batman stuff and some Superman stuff. I wrote a Wildcat story because I love the Justice Society characters. In fact, when they first asked me if I wanted to work for them, they offered me Dan DiDio asked me if I wanted to write a Batman story where it talked about how Detective Bullock and Batman first connected, and then he was like, "Or you could write a Wildcat story. We need somebody to do that." Or not a. He didn't even say Wildcat. He said a Justice Society, like Justice Class. I mean JSA Classified or whatever. And instead of being smart and saying, "Oh yeah, I should jump all over that Batman story," I was like, "Man, I've always liked Wildcat," so I wrote that instead, which was I've never been real good at making the right decisions when it came to that stuff. But I think like so Tom King's writing Batman. Tom King is great. But even with like Tom and Scott writing those characters, I kind of feel a little burned out on them all. So like my favorite characters in the DC universe is there's a character called Blackhawk that's been around since the 40s, and it's this World War II fighter pilot thing, right? It's a character that isn't so familiar with everyone that if you put a new spin on it, people would be outraged or angry. And I've always had kind of like a sort of dark, sort of hard-edged, kind of supernatural take on that I've always wanted to do, which is an answer that doesn't excite anybody, I'm sure. But
No, that's
I don't know. I mean, I love what like Tom's doing with Mr. Miracle. I love seeing like Plastic Man show up in this Terrifics book. For me, it's the characters who haven't really been explored a whole lot lately. I think are the ones that I'd most be interested in. I mean, I'm not dying to write any characters, for Marvel or DC, but I think there's probably a clever or cool spin you could put on some of the more obscure characters where it wouldn't upset the fan base. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a vague answer, but I mean, there's a lot of strange and odd characters I'd like to kind of pull out of the past and play around with if I had a choice. So many of the characters that I wanted to write when I was a kid, like Wolverine or Batman or whatever, they've just been done to death at this point. So I'm not sure I'd have a really new and exciting take for the characters I loved when I was younger.
everything has untapped potential. It's important to get into that. So yeah, I can totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think there's something. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do with these established characters. There's going to be a segment of the old fan base that's ticked off about it. And even though I don't think the most vocal people that are angry ever represent most of the fans, it just, then I think you feel like you're fighting an uphill battle right from the start sometimes. So, I mean, you can see that with what people have tried to do with some of the Marvel characters recently. And I'm not talking about the characters that have been reinvented. I just mean the existing characters, trying to put a new spin on the stories or what have you. There seems like there's a whole group of vultures out there just waiting to swoop in on any new take on old characters.
It really depends on how you handle it, though. It just in my opinion, it's
it does. Except half the time when they're announced, that's when they start attacking. So.
Well, and just to be nice about that.
But once it starts and if it's good, people will be like, this is actually good.
Because we saw Batman White Knight, and a lot of us were really curious. Everybody didn't jump on and attack it. They were like, what? Because
they're like, White Knight, it's SJW.
Marvel has been notorious for, we're going to do this, and then they do it, and it explodes, and everybody panics. Like, it's a panicky thing because they're very used to, fans are very used to seeing a chaotic storm happen, and that's why, from what I've experienced and seen. So let
me just real quickly here, just because I do this in these live streams, and I know it drives everyone crazy, but I'm reading the questions on the side just to follow up because a couple people are actually curious about the Blackhawk thing. Edward Brewer and Switchpoint. Yes, he would have a squadron, and it would be a combination of sci-fi and horror, and it's something that I might do anyway on my own with the Blackhawk thing, but. And I hear what you guys are saying. The thing about Marvel you have to realize is that until about 2015, they had dominated comic sales for a long time. And so when things kind of flipped around a little bit and DC kept stumbling. I mean, they kept getting in their own way with these relaunches and nothing was working. And until DC figured it out, so to speak, I don't think Marvel had to hustle much. So you're right. I think there became a point when they did start to panic a little because what they had taken for granted forever wasn't working anymore. And they were maybe less inclined to kind of sit back and let things play out or plan long term or what have you. You know, it's all cyclical, but yeah, after years of kind of dominating DC, I think it was probably a shock for Marvel to wake up and realize, whoa, things have changed. So
also, there's a question earlier from Master Chudy. I am curious about this myself too. He said, so you dig Red Hood? Like, have you read any Red Hood and the Outlaws right now?
No, I haven't read anything. I have read very little, very little of the recent, any of the recent DC stuff or Marvel stuff. What I've been doing lately, I kind of follow creators more than anything. So, like I said, I mentioned Tom King. I've been reading most of what he does across the board. I'm trying to think. With Marvel and DC, I mean, I have friends that write for both companies, so I'll kind of dabble and jump in and see what they're doing. And, you know, if it appeals to me, I'll stay on board. I think, you know, I read those books. I started reading those books when I was so young, and those characters have been through so many variations over the years that I don't really hang on to characters much anymore. I mean, I just kind of accept that eventually stuff changes and moves on, and it's kind of designed for a new audience or what have you. So I don't know. I guess that's one of the problems I have. Yeah. I guess that's one of the problems I have with, I have trouble relating to a lot of the outrage about existing characters just because I think it's natural for them to evolve and change and move in different directions. And I don't know. I think too many people get rooted in the era in which they jumped into comics and don't ever want to see things change. And I try never to be that dude, especially as a writer.
It's understandable, but at the same time, it's like how you implement the change is, to me, because it is an art form, and I feel like it is remastering. It's art restoration. It's art restoration, and you add a piece of your own to the painting. You don't want to overpaint it, or you make Potato Jesus, and that's the whole entire thing, is to not make the Potato Jesus.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I know what I would do if I was running things. But I'm not running things. No one is asking me to run things. So, and I can't even tell you that the way I do it would work. But I think these characters have been around for so long, so many of them, and they're basically corporate icons, you know. And for a long time, I mean, from like the late 60s into the mid 80s, most of the mainstream characters were kind of frozen in place to some degree, especially like design wise, which I think was probably a marketing concern. But it was real easy back then to just jump into the middle of a story or pick up a book and figure out what was going on, and you could kind of count on the same general continuity and everything. And that made it a lot easier for readers to climb on board. And so when things shift and change and you've got all these weird teams thrown together and everyone's throwing stuff against the wall and it only lasts for a few issues, even as a guy who's read comics for like 30 years, it's hard for me to ever find an entry point to some of these books with characters that I feel like I've known forever. So what I'd like to see is less focus on change and more focus on bringing in creators for short or long, but like say 6 to 12 arcs where they get to tell the story they want to tell with these characters. And, you know, you can shift continuity forward by degrees, but the key would be the story. You know, you've got a Batman story you want to tell, you tell that story, you move out of the way, somebody else comes in, picks up the ball, tells the story they want to tell. That's kind of what I'd like to see, because I don't think there's enough focus on the actual stories themselves at this point. You know, readers seem to respond more to events and changes and shifting characters and whatever than the actual story arcs.
Okay. Before we go any further, first of all, go ahead and if you see a question, just jump on it, B. Clay.
Sure.
And second, yeah, I agree with you on the story part, because I love the art part, but if it's not a good story, good art isn't going to keep me there forever.
Oh, heck no.
Well, you got to have, and more, both Marvel and Tom King's stuff is a good example. He and Mitch Gerads are doing they did Sheriff of Babylon together. They're doing Mr. Miracle together. They're a collaborative team. They're working together on that book, and so the art and the story definitely go hand in hand. It's very much like creator-owned books are, where you work with a collaborator that you pick and you put a story together. And I think it's always better when the artist and writer are sympathetic and working together. Somebody over here did ask about Hawaiian Dick. I like this. I don't know anything about Hawaiian Dick, but I'm just imagining a 30s noir detective teamed up with Hawaiian Punch guys driving a Ferrari to investigate.
Yes, that's what I was laughing at.
I didn't think of the Hawaiian Punch Man, but I did when you said that. All I could think of was the Kool-Aid Man busting it.
That's probably better than the book. So
yeah,
it was okay.
It's a 50s noir detective story with some supernatural elements thrown in and
random ghosts.
Yeah,
take care of the bad guys for the first 2 books.
Right. The ghosts the supernatural stuff is never the focus. It just kind of gets in the way of what the character is trying to do. So
bye. Yeah.
Which was by design. Anyway, that's Hawaiian Dick. So. And again, if I have to explain to the kids out there, Dick was slang for detectives.
Yeah, he explained that to me.
And I have had to explain that more than once. So more than 100 times, in fact.
In Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I think they explained it in that too.
Yeah. Well, I guess I could.
That was 89.
Yeah, people should.
Well, it was also for the joke, wasn't it? That they did that in Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Probably.
A little bit, I think. A little bit.
They had a lot of adult humor.
Yeah, that sounds like they did
adult stuff. Like even on the oven, it made a reference to like hell, hot as hell or something.
Okay, before it scrolls off, we did have a question from Tehillim. They were asking if have you read any of the new books, new hero books from DC? You did mention the Terrifics. Is there any other ones that have got your curiosity?
Man, I'd have to look. Yeah, I mean there have. I mean, a lot of the new announcements look pretty encouraging. I'm always way behind on what I mean to be reading. So what I end up doing is like I'll pick up even with like when Tom was doing the Vision. I read the first couple issues at Marvel, and I was just
yes.
Whoa! I mean, yeah, it like blew. I mean, you read so many comics, and it's rare that you read something and you're just blown away as a fan and as a writer with the direction, not just the direction they took, but the direction they were allowed to take. And say what you want about Marvel, but the fact that editorial was willing to let them kind of do what they did with that character in that book was, to me, that's all the evidence you need that's how things should be.
That's how they should be doing it.
Yeah,
if they're going to do a change, do a 12 issue limited series.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And not necessarily keep it in the continuity, but do it that way and make that a graphic novel, not every 6 issues of the regular continuity a graphic novel.
Right. No, I agree. But my point was I got into the shop, I picked up a couple issues. I just don't get to the shop very much, and then all of a sudden I'm way behind. So then I'm waiting for the trade, and I end up. That's what I end up doing is kind of collecting trades after the fact. Yeah, I'd actually have to. Also, things also fly out of my head pretty quickly, so I'd have to. I'm sure there's something I was really excited about a couple of hours ago that I've forgotten about now. But I've spent all day trying to edit a video that I ended up putting way too much work into. So it'll be up hopefully tonight at some point.
Oh, that's good. So how's your
harassed you over it?
How's your channel going, by the way?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How's your channel going, by the way?
That's going pretty well. I mean, I've got about 4 videos up in a week, but the response has been pretty positive, and I understand. I mentioned before that Ethan Van Sciver he kept pestering me like, do a comic writing channel. It's like people will respond to that. They want this, and it's just doing it is the thing. And as he told me, you're going to be rough out of the gate, and I am. I mean, I'm listening to criticism but the response has been really positive for the people that have watched it. And it does seem like people are interested in learning about the process, and they've had good input and questions. There's a lot of the stuff people have asked me to cover. I do want to cover, but I feel like I want to wait till I'm on my feet a little more and can cover it as in depth as I'd like to, because people have had some really good questions and suggestions about what to cover. This one that I'm doing today is I did a book years ago at Image called Harem, and it's a self-contained 5-issue miniseries. It's been out in trade forever. It's one of those books that I still have on my table at conventions, and you get kind of a cult following and people who really like the book. So what I did was I put together kind of an oral history of how the book was conceived and put together, and also the approval process and some of the trials and tribulations we had getting it out. So it's going to be about 15-20 minutes, and hopefully it's interesting to people. And if nothing else, they can kind of hear how the process goes when you're pitching and trying to get a book published, and some of the things you face when you're doing it. So I think it'll probably be called The Secret Origin of Battleham or something. I'm trying to come up with like I want to be able to do playlists, right? So if I can do the secret origin of different books I've done, then if people are interested in that, they can. I'm trying to figure it out, guys.
That is really cool. Yeah, and I do agree that it's a good idea, because right now there is a massive disconnect happening between everybody behind comics and the fans of comics right now. And I think getting more of a peek of who gets to choose what for, comics and this and that, and just having the channel where you can field some questions, concerns in a positive way. I think more artists and writers should really try doing the same thing and connecting directly with the fans.
Well, and that's, in this case, there's nothing, all I want to do is talk about the process and writing and anything related to the industry or whatever. I have no interest in getting into any, political considerations or debates about whatever,
I think it still helps. I think it's still going to put a human face and voice behind, a positive human face and voice behind the process, so people can, kind of a reminder that, hey, we are people doing this,
Organizing, perhaps, is the term.
Yeah. Well, and the hope is that, because that's the approach I'm taking, and it's actually proven to be so far, the hope is that people, for instance, Ethan's channel tends to attract largely the diversity in comics crowd. And Ethan, he does jump into, people that people pester him or people harass him or whatever. He'll address that on his channel. And I told him, I'm like, I think if you would just focus on the comic art, I think that the subscriptions would explode, because people kind of have a misconception about some of the stuff he's doing because they see that stuff brought into it. But I like the fact that so far it seems like subscribers are coming from all over for my channel. And there hasn't been any drama with any, it's like they're really just interested in the process. And it's like, I'd love to have a place where it doesn't matter what side of whatever fence you think you're on. If you're interested in the process and how things work, you'll show up and learn something. And if you are just interested in drama, there's plenty of channels you can
okay,
follow if that's what you want, right? Well, I don't think we need another one. So
yeah, we've got some questions here. First from Mega Gears. What do you think is necessary to get people into comics, and how do you get new readers?
Well, that's such a loaded. Everybody has their thoughts on that. I do think continuity. I think being able to recognize characters and pick up books if you come from outside comics is key. I've never really understood, and I know this is a thing everybody talks about. I've never understood why the Marvel movies aren't always reflected in the comics. I think they've done a pretty good job of that with the Guardians stuff. They sort of launched Guardians comics on the backs of the movie, and found different directions for that. But if you see an Avengers movie and you kind of think the characters look cool and you want to check them out in comics, it's kind of hard to jump into anything new and see what see something that relates to what you just saw. If that makes sense.
I think they're like gateways, and they need to utilize them more.
Right.
Like when Wonder Woman appeared in Batman versus Superman, there's like at least three standalone Wonder Woman books that came out in 2016.
They made fan art when the movie was coming out, the Wonder Woman movie. Like all the comics had variant covers of nothing but Wonder Woman, and then they did Wonder Woman Day, where they were just like giving out, I think, free samples of a Wonder Woman issue and just gave huge discounts.
Right. Well, and I'll be honest, part of it, I mentioned the Avengers, and I'm a huge fan of the Marvel movies. I'm not a huge fan of the DC movies until Wonder Woman.
I know, that's everybody.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I think DC's probably about to turn the corner, is my guess. I mean, it seems like they've kind of realized, okay, we need to maybe shift our focus a little bit. And if that happens, I mean, it'd be awesome to have both DC and Marvel movies coming out regularly where everything is awesome. I mean, so, but I mainly get frustrated with the Marvel movies because I think the movies are so fun, and I like fun mainstream comics, and it would be, and I know they don't market well and they don't let anybody know that the comics even exist, but it would be really cool if you could say, man, I like the tone of these movies, which is similar, and boom, here's something I can pick up and slide right into the comic books. But whatever. That's to me, maybe that's one of the gateways. I don't know. It's tough. Distribution is a mess. I mean, comic shops, there aren't comic shops everywhere. The comic shops that are out there, there are some fantastic ones, but there are a lot that just aren't great. They don't recommend stuff. They don't stick to one line of comics. And I mean, I understand economics are tough and you can't just throw everything out on the shelves, but one of the things I learned when I was working at Image was that first of all, there aren't enough comic shops to cover the country, but there's almost nowhere else to get comic books. And many of the comic shops that are out there only sell a limited number of Marvel and DC books. And now maybe they'll throw The Walking Dead into it or whatever, but there's not like a wide array of comics that people can get into. So that's one of the biggest problems is just getting comics into people's hands. It's very difficult.
I like what Alterna is doing, where they got a deal with like Books A Million and Barnes and Nobles and Toys R Us, and they started shoving theirs there. And
right. Well, and in fairness, Barnes and Noble has really done a great job of expanding their graphic novel sections, and single issues maybe not so much. But I don't buy a lot of stuff at Barnes and Noble just because I don't want to pay straight retail for a lot of stuff, but I do love going and browsing the comic section and just seeing how well stocked they are and how well organized they are. And obviously their manga stuff is huge, but they do a really nice job of representing mainstream comics. And there's a lot of Dark Horse and Image and IDW or whatever. I mean, you can obviously tell what's hot in the market and what's not by looking at what they carry, but it is nice to see an expansive selection of, and also anytime I go in there's a lot of people browsing, so that's good, I guess.
Okay, now expanding on that, Mr. E asked, what are your thoughts on Marvel's Fresh Start?
I think it looks pretty great so far. I mean, granted, I'm a friend and a fan of Jason Aaron's, but that Jason Aaron, Ed McGuinness Avengers book looks like a blast. It just looks like a lot of fun to me. Trying to think what else they've really announced. I saw the Captain America announcement. I'll be curious to see how that goes. I have to admit I haven't really read Captain America regularly for a long time. I'm willing to kind of check out the new launches and see how they look out of the gate. I did that with the New 52 when DC first launched. I literally read every single first issue, and it was like 52 comics, I think.
Yep.
And most of them were not. Yeah, and it was it was not the best experience. I mean, there were like a handful of really good books, but my God, they were really trying to find their way at that point. But I'll probably check everything out. I like new starting points. Period. So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you see stuff that? Do you have a mixed opinion of it, or do you see stuff that looks pretty good, or do you not like what's happening? Or
I'm not really a Marvel fan.
I'm cautious.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I want to get into current Marvel stuff, but all this crazy stuff going on. It's like, no, but I'm seeing this new announcement and then the adventures, like with the Thor and everyone else. I was like, I might try out that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so unsure. I've been like, they tricked me before with a lot of their other stuff, and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. And this seems to be their third restart in less than 2 years, and so I'm like, I'm gonna stay away, and then I'm gonna find out if it's good because I saw Marvel Legacy, and they're like, this is our reboot, and I'm like,
it's Rebirth.
You should stop. Like, and I was like, you really gonna buy that? And it was $6, and everybody was kind of let down. So I'm very skeptical at 4.
Right. Well, that's true, but you also, I mean, DC had to do the same thing to get to where they are. I mean, they stumbled a couple times before they figured out, the new Rebirth.
Yeah, but when they did Rebirth, there was like, just the way they did it, they had a lot of enthusiasm and so forth. So I can't blame, so Legacy was supposed to be their Rebirth, but there were heavy differences into it that, I don't know. It's just, I guess I'm just more of a DC girl anyway.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, like I said, I can't, I haven't paid close attention to everything they've announced. I just know that I do, like I said, as somebody who's, this is a silly geek thing, but like I can't stand the fact that Marvel has so many variations of, like when I grew up 100 years ago, there were the X-Men and there were the Avengers, and I like that. I mean, and when they start crossing all the streams, and it's like they destroy anything that's unique or interesting about the individual groups.
Yes.
When they just start throwing them all together.
Yes.
Hey, I'm of that same era, so I get you.
Yeah, so I don't really understand the point at that point. Like, why are, I mean, I know, okay, when the X-Men are hot, we make the Uncanny Avengers or whatever. And I'm not even saying the books were bad. It's just, there's nothing to latch onto. And I think people forget that, there are still fans of these characters, but fans latch on to, when I was a kid, I read comics with like about 4 other dudes, right, for a while. I moved around a lot. And it's the only place I ever had friends who read comics was when I was in like, say, 4th or 5th grade. And it was like the X-Men dude and the Avengers dude and the Fantastic Four dude and the Legion of Superheroes, and it was like, those were our books, right? And you could at least count on the same characters and consistency and everything. And then at some point, it just got crazy. I mean,
yes.
You just get lost, and so I've been lost for years.
Then you get
it's a Wolverine effect.
Dimension versions, you get different timeline versions, you get a million reboots, and that's part of why I backed out of right now, partially because of the drama and just the staleness, especially of Marvel. I've backed away from a lot of Marvel and DC new stuff, which has got me checking out indies, which is a lot of fun. Right. Bouncing around because I can trust the indies. Like,
well, that's true. I mean, they're not gonna shift gears on you when it's a specific creative team that has created it.
Yeah, because they're gonna stay on that series, and that series is either going to have an end to the story or something, and then they move on to a different project. Like, I can trust that, and I can trust that characters might actually stay dead.
Yeah.
And so I've backed away, but part of the reason was I remember going a long time ago, going to one of the Spider-Man movies, and somebody came up to me that was trying to he was like, I don't know, comic book guy on The Simpsons. He was that guy. Like,
I've met them.
He was that guy.
I know that guy.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, so you like Spider-Man? Well, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite Spider-Man or something?" And I was like, "Well, it depends on what freaking you." Or I can't remember what he asked. No, it was something. And I said, "Depends on which freaking universe, timeline, all this different what alignment the planets are in right now." It's
yeah.
I'm like, I'll have to do some like witchcraft looking ritual stuff to figure out like what Spider-Man's doing right now, where.
I hate that that's even a question. Which Spider? I mean, look, Miles Morales, I get it, that's cool and everything, but I mean, man, I Spider-Man is a good example. Like, when I got into comics, it just so happened that like right when I got into comics, I discovered like these Silver Age reprints of the original Marvel book comics.
Yeah.
Like immediately. So like even though like I was reading comics in the early 80s, I also was immediately exposed to like the Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, like Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, and all that. And when I was a kid, I didn't care what I was reading. It all, I loved it all, right? So like Spider-Man, the very first early Spider-Man issues, you read them now, they're obviously dated and cheesy and what have you, but there's still a lot of stuff in there that they've never really topped. I mean, there's just it's a lot of it with Steve Ditko, and I could go into this indeed. Maybe I will someday, but they're just like relationships and scenes that are off kilter and funky. But Spider-Man always had for years and years, he was kind of this always on the verge of success, but always ended up losing. And, you could count on the consistency of the character, and there was a straight line. And then when it all just got crazy and he's joining the Avengers, and it's just, again, it's just like he wasn't unique anymore. I mean, it wasn't, so
when there was 37 Spider-Men in one room and they all conveniently are in New York City, that's when you know you have a problem.
It's the Wolverine effect, I think. It is.
It's the Wolverine effect, and it's not a good one. They're trying to do that with Deadpool now, and I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah. Deadpool.
They somewhat have a little bit of excuse if he keeps his mercenary thing where any of his team ups are temporary.
Yeah, but
he should be kept to like a guest, like almost like a guest appearance here and there, because he should still be working for himself.
Like he's an X-Men and an Avenger and stuff. It's like like a whole entire thing where he shouldn't be an Avenger because he murdered people. You guys are like, what happened to the Avengers? You're like,
I don't think they should have gone so far as to actually making him a member of these teams and giving him new costumes and stuff. I think they should have left it as, here's a little, brief story arc where for whatever reason they need him to tag along.
Yeah.
And nobody likes him. Like, and none of them like it.
Yeah, there are some characters who are ghost peppers. You only need one every once in a while. You do not need it in every single dish.
I like that saying.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't look. I mean, it's a commercial medium, and I mean, Deadpool. I mean, I do think, and again, I don't read a lot of the stuff, but I will say that by and large, when I've seen him in other books and stuff, they've done a pretty good job of at least kind of keeping the character's personality. And I think it's hard to make him work with some of the things that they've shoved him into, but I mean, at least he seems to be the same guy pretty much from what I can tell.
I just don't want the character to get burned out because of overexposure. That's why I call it the Wolverine effect.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And like, it's fun to have Wolverine team up every so once in a while, but you don't need him in everything. And
that's the thing.
Not across the universe. No.
And Wolverine went from being like, a pretty neat character to really again, like,
yeah.
Man,
I don't want Deadpool to do that because I've liked some of his stuff, not all of it, but I really like some aspects of the character. I really think he's, funny. I can't take his comics very seriously, but I think he's funny. And one thing I am guilty of is I like his a lot of his interactions with Spider-Man, the way those have been written.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like those.
No, they're very well written from what I've seen and read. I bought a few of the first issues. Couldn't get into them after a while, but yeah, I saw a lot of hey, I like both characters, and I know how to write them well, because there was an issue, and I remember hearing this in discussions, that if they did ever team ups, one would act like a dick to the other, but they would but nobody would ever make them ever work together very well. It was like one of them was always out of character, but these team ups with them currently makes them very nice, like they're not out of character this time or something.
Okay, now going back to the writing thing, Switchpoint had a really good question for Beakley. Do you think a story should be a full story in a single issue with an overall arc spanning multiple issues, or should a story be written for the trades and stretched out?
Well, I think both. I think the first option is what. So, I mean, most of what I've done almost exclusively in multi-part stories is like 5 or 6 issue chunks. Even at DC, the most I besides a couple books that I created for DC, the only, like when I've done Superman or Justice Society thing, those were 3 issue story arcs. So I guess because of that, I always have to think in terms of that 3 to 6 issue chunk. But I always try to make each individual issue within a story have a rise and fall and sort of stand on its own, even in the context of the larger story. There used to be a point. One of the things that's kind of gone by the wayside is there was a point years ago when you could point to specific issues in a comic book's run. And people would hear that and they'd remember that story, like the first appearance of Elektra in Daredevil or something like that. So they'd remember or X-Men 137, which is the death of Phoenix. Those issues were always part of a larger story, but they stood on their own and had an impact on their own. But that you can still do that and write quote unquote for the trade, as long as it's just a little trickier. You've got your rise and fall in a single issue as part of, say, a 6-issue arc that tells a more complete story. That doesn't mean you have to wrap everything up in those 6 issues. You just kind of need to be able to have an arc that starts and finishes within those issues. Because those old X-Men and Daredevil that I was referencing, those read well in trade as well. But largely because each individual issue had its own sort of beginning and finish. So you felt satisfied reading. Excuse me. Back then, actually, I don't even know if people realize that those were 17-page issues. But so you would read those 17-page stories and feel like you had read a complete story, even though you were interested in where it went from there or what have you. So, but I mean, you have to. I don't think it's a negative to write for the trade. I just think there needs to be more to the story than that, if that makes sense. If you're writing a continuing comic book, for me, it's always 5 or 6 issues that I'm writing, it seems. So, it takes care of itself in that regard. But I do want each issue to stand on its own and have its own personality.
Oh, gross! Get off me!
I miss when it wasn't trades all the time. Because when you actually had a trade, like with Emperor Doom, or you had the death of Captain Marvel, or something like that, it was a special event. Now everything is like, every 6 issues, boom, we're giving it right to trades for everything, and it just dilutes the value of a trade, in my opinion, because it should be reserved for a special event like the Kree Skrull War, or when Galactus first appeared, something like that. That's in my opinion. But then again, I'm way old school like you are.
Yeah, but I have to say, again, because I just don't get to the shop to pick up single issues and stuff.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah, I like having everything, and also, in the interest of full disclosure, I sold all my comics a long time. Like I had maybe 40 long boxes of comics at one point, and
whoa,
I mean that's like, from childhood, that was like 30 years of collecting comics, and once I sold a bunch of them, it was real easy to sell a lot more of them and clear out space. So what I kind of been doing is going back and picking up, because Marvel especially has been so good at collecting all these books from the 70s, 80s, 90s into trades. I've kind of been going back, like when I'm at conventions and I can find, like I just picked up the 3rd Alpha Flight trade, which was a book I read as a kid and loved. So I've been kind of going back and picking up the books I really liked in either essentials formats or trades and putting them on a bookshelf. So I don't know. I like having them available in a self-contained volume like that. So I just think things have changed. Trade sales are probably a larger part of the market than people even realize.
I dominantly read trades because I'm newer. Like I only just started going to the comic shop because of Mr. Miracle.
Right.
I'm too, when I buy paper comics, half of them at least are in trades because I don't feel like tracking down if I want like a whole story.
I like reading. I pick up singles, but I pick up trades a lot of times for older comics or because
Yeah.
I just
Definitely.
and there's some great ones that do come from really old stuff. And if the series itself are one shots, but they want to get a story in there that specifically happens during that time period, they stick in extra like little stories that happen around that time. Because I own the Kraven's Last Hunt one, and they put in the Wolverine team up with Spider-Man in there, and they do the whole entire Hobgoblin story in there too.
Yeah.
Thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like trades is for stuff that I technically missed when it was fresh coming out, but I'm interested in.
Yeah. Like for me, I love the Marvel Masterworks because I can own the first 12 issues of Iron Man without having to rob a bank.
Right.
Yeah, that's always a good one. Like, I want to get the Super Sons trades sometime. And by the way, those actually they sometimes do a branching story arc, except every single one of the comics can stand on their own in a really nice way.
I haven't read the new Super Sons book. I know
it's good.
I've heard it's really good. I just and I know people were like, oh, they canceled it, but I'm kind of like, oh, good, now I can read it all. So
they're actually moving it to another.
Right.
I think they're making
another division of DC.
Yeah, but no, I've heard good things. Yeah, and it's funny too because there was so when I was a kid, I was always picking up whatever cheap back issues I could find, and I used to obsess over the old World's Finest ran this Super Sons thing with the hip '70s son of Superman and Batman, and I used to I had all those at one point, and they were cheesy as hell, but it's funny to see them revive that.
And they're written really well.
Yeah. Like the characters, the interaction between them is one of the best parts, and then the art. It's very vivid, very energetic.
The artwork is very it's just beautiful, and you gotta the characters act like kids, and there's just some fun interactions, and it has a very nice manga style nod as well, which helps out getting more people, I think.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely check it out. I mean, but again, that's one where, having trades is helpful to me. It's the other thing is 100 years ago when I'd read a book, I could read issue 80 of something, and the history of the characters only went back 80 issues, so I could go back and I knew everything I had to know by picking up those earlier. I loved that. I loved jumping into when I first discovered the Legion of Superheroes as a kid, I was like,
oh yes,
oh my God, there's 100 crazy characters I've never heard of. I can't wait to figure out what they're all about. You can't really do that now because things revolve and flip and change so much. But
kind of like the gaming industry, that's how you can get into other games and stuff. Like when they do a team up, like Super Smash Brothers or something like that, and you see that, it's like, oh, who's that? Who's Roy? Who's Marth? I have the Fire Emblem now.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Not that I game much, but I couldn't game if I wanted to. I got a 5th grader in the other room who's on it all the time lately. But
okay, we have another question from American Swordfish. How would you write for trades, and can you give examples?
How would I write for trades?
If you're writing a book like, say, a regular mainline,
like a Wildcat series.
Yeah, like the Wildcats, or if you were writing, say, for the Avengers or whoever, how would you write that book that be destined for a trade?
It would just, it would really just, throughout the history of any of these comics, there was always, especially once Marvel, give history lessons, but once Marvel came onto the scene in the 60s and started writing with issue-to-issue continuity, which wasn't really much of a thing before then. So you always had the underlying, you had an A and a B plot or what have you, and that's how you should still approach it. You've got the plot that continues from issue to issue, and then you've got the immediate threat or what have you. And it's really not any different than it was 50 years ago. You'd have, a villain would appear, there'd be 2 or 3 issues where they'd fight, and then it would lead to something else. It's just a matter of kind of wrapping up a story before you move into the next story, without wrapping up all the stories. So, I don't think there's any super secret to it. I just think you do focus on, okay, I've got a 6-issue run here where we have, something at the end is different from the beginning. And then we move on to the next chapter, picking up the threads. you mentioned the Wildcat thing. It's funny. So the Wildcat story that I did, was three. It was only 3 issues, but at the time, so this book, JSA Classified, was about to be canceled, and Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor had just done Power Girl, which they had introduced in that book. And when they wrote that Power Girl story, they wrote it as a finite story that sort of reset the character so that she could go into her own book, which was kind of the idea behind that book, but it got lost in the shuffle immediately. So, excuse me. So when Dan asked me to do a Wildcat story, he said, everybody seems to love this character, but he's never really had a run or a book of his own or anything that people remember. So could you approach it like you're introducing the character and then setting him up for a new series? And so when I wrote it, it was actually with the idea that this would be a launch pad to a new series. And keeping that in mind, I figured, well, this 3-issue arc would be the first chapter of that series. And I started off by, Ramon Perez was the artist on that. And I don't know if you know Ramon's work, but Ramon is a fantastic artist. And he had never done any DC work, and I had to talk them into using him. And to this day, it's one of my favorite visual stories I've ever done, just because of Ramon's work. And it was a good launch pad for him to, I don't know, he did Hawkeye and Spider-Man, and he does whatever he wants to, basically. But he's Canadian, and these Canadian guys, they kind of do what they want to and then move away and vanish for a while. And then, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's a cultural trait or what, but I know all these phenomenal artists in Toronto who get really bored doing like superhero comics all the time. So they pop in and do stuff for a little while and then go off and do their own thing. And anyway, so I got Ramon on board with that, and I was convinced we were going to go to series after this. It didn't happen for reasons that had nothing to do with me, but I guess that's a good example. I was trying to write a story that had a particular perspective that would last for that 3-issue arc, but also give us a point where we could jump into the next chapter, so to speak. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's really just in your head, just thinking about the fact that you're writing, a 6-issue arc. And with each issue, you're writing a single issue story where the pacing works, where there's a rise and fall, where there's a climax and where it's not unbalanced, where a reader doesn't feel like they've read half of a story. You want them to have read a chapter in a larger story. So I think each issue in a 6-issue arc should be, there should be 6 individual chapters. And then that larger 6-issue arc should be, a volume, or I was going to say a larger chapter, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling, but I think you just have to keep in mind, and it's tough for me. And this is one of the things about this channel that's a challenge to a degree, is that I'm not like a technical writer. Like I don't sit down and like math is not my strong suit. So a lot of the way I write is sort of intuitive. And so like I've internalized like the rise and fall or the rhythm of, say, a 20 or 22 page story. So when I'm writing, I guess there's a part of my brain that's kind of aware of where we are in the story and how the action needs to flow and everything. To the point where a few years ago, DC cut their stories from 22 pages to 20 pages. And the first 20-page story I had to write for DC was a freaking nightmare, because in my head, I had that 22-page rhythm figured out. And I realized that when I got towards the end of the story, my pacing and everything was all screwed up because I didn't have that extra 2 pages. And even though I hadn't like sat there and plotted out all 22 pages, it was like intuitively I was like, oh shit, there's not enough room to finish what, I mean, I don't know. It's so that really screwed me up for a little while. And also I have this habit of misnumbering my pages, which I can't tell you how many times I've done that. So I'll be like, here's a 20-page story. And my editor will be like, yeah, but you wrote 21 pages. And man, that sucks. It's kind of awesome when you go, here's a 22-page story. And they go, oh, you've only written 21, because then you can flesh it all out. But I can't tell how many times I've accidentally added a page and misnumbered. So anyway, I don't know. For me, it's a lot of it is intuitive, and I'm using my internal writing clock to make sure that everything flows and there's good pacing and everything. I'm sure some people are more mechanical with it. You know, they want something on page 6 and page 10, and but anyway, that's how I operate.
Well, that's really cool.
Wake up, guys! I completely put you all to sleep with that answer. So
I was listening.
Yes, sir.
Oh God, Sam, these questions are too good.
Yeah, these are chat's really on it with the questions this time.
These are good questions. It's like the key to making a single issue feel self-contained and still apart. That's the secret. Yes,
can't be expected to do the maths.
No, I agree, Tim. I think I like to know that in each issue there's a key development or a key moment or a key character introduced or a key revelation about a character, like a supporting character. So when I look back, I can think of that issue as the issue where this character revealed their history or whatever. So I don't know. I guess I want to make sure that there's something in each issue that is unique to that issue and is resolved to some degree, even if the resolution is just a better understanding of the character or something about their past or what have you. I don't want a character's introduction to linger. I don't want an origin of a secondary character to flow from one issue halfway into the next issue, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And following on that, Makini90 has, can you ask, what's the key to making a single issue feel self-contained and still a part of the larger story arc?
Well, it's kind of what I was trying to cover. As far as part of the larger story arc, I think the key is just to have, again, is to always have a secondary plot in motion.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of a specific example of something. So I did a book for Valiant last year, which was for a 4-issue sort of prestige format thing called Savage. And it introduced a brand new character and it told his origin and what have you. And each issue was written individually and rewritten individually. And there would be cliffhangers at the end of each issue, but over the course of the issue, there would have been something about the character fully explained, if that makes any sense. So how did the character get to, the character's on an island, okay, with dinosaurs on it. So how did the character get to this island? That's covered in the first issue. What happened to his family is covered in the second issue. And there's cliffhangers on each, at the end of each issue. How do we resolve his story at this moment in time is the 4th issue. So it's just being cognizant of wanting to sort of ask a question and answer a question in each individual issue, even as you tell the larger story. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
So you can just jump in. They say you can jump in on issue 3 and not feel completely lost.
You could jump in on issue 3 and you'll wonder how we got here, but you'll also have answers to new questions answered in that issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. And we asked by Samurai Raccoon, what's the best way to approach creating a character?
Creating a character? Okay, well, so
if you were going to do your own character, how would you approach creating it?
For whatever reason, even when I've done work for not Marvel, but for DC or for Valiant, as an example, I have ended up creating characters. Like I created 2 characters, or 2 series for DC that used brand new characters. This Valiant series I was talking about, Savage, that's a brand new character that I created from scratch. And then the artist Louis LaRosa came on board and sort of fleshed out the visuals, which then helped me flesh out the character. Obviously, all my creator-owned stuff at Image, Hawaiian Dick, Battle Hymn. I did a book called 76. Those are all original creations. Did a book at Oni Press called The Leading Man. Anyway, the point is I seem to spend a lot of time, and I would love to spend more time playing with other people's characters, but for whatever reason, and maybe it's just because of the way people perceive what I do, they I don't know, they don't think of me when it comes to existing characters as much as new characters. But first of all, that's a good question. First of all, before the character comes along, the world has to be there, the setting and the world, so to speak. The world and the rules of the world in which the character is going to interact have to be set in place. And then and then you need to you may have a type of protagonist you want to write. Say like Hawaiian Dick's a good example. So I literally just wanted to throw all my pop culture interests into one stew and see how I could make them fit together. So I love like 70s detective TV shows, like The Rockford Files specifically is a show I love. And that character, for those who haven't seen the show, he's an ex-con private eye who tends to stumble his way through cases. Like he gets his ass kicked a lot and gets knocked out and knocked around a lot. And he's not a great fighter. And he has to kind of bluff his way through things, and nothing ever goes the way it was planned. So I knew I liked that type of character. But I like film noir. I'm a big fan of tiki culture and also 50s culture. I love jazz. I mean, and I thought, what would reflect all that, right? I knew I wanted to use this type of character, and I knew I wanted to use that kind of setting. So in this case, I specifically thought to myself, and I thought nobody's gonna key in on this, but I thought of Hawaii in the 50s as sort of a good analogy for the decade of the 50s, which is to say the 50s on the surface look Leave It to Beaver and, cheery families and lots of, happy family dynamics and everything. But underneath the surface was the tension of the Cold War and the blacklist and all this stuff. So even though pop culture reflects this one reality, we know that there was all this tension under the surface, right? So I thought, well, let's use Hawaii like that, right? Hawaii, bright and vacation spot on the surface, but underneath there had to be back alleys and dark goings on or what have you. So I thought those kind of blended together, the era and the setting, and then I tried to do the same with the character. We see him on one level; he's this kind of washed up stateside cop. And we know he's here for a reason, but we don't really know why. And as we go through the process, we kind of realize there's more to his story than meets the eye, right? So the character then is informed by the setting and that theme that I've come up with. And at that point, I just want him to be engaging enough and have enough mystery to him and be somebody that the reader would want to follow through the landscape, if that makes any sense. So that's literally the process I went through with that character. Savage was the thing that started with just like a what if idea. He's the offspring of a world famous soccer player. So basically that's what if David Beckham and Posh Beckham crash landed into a world full of dinosaurs. I mean, that's literally what the thought process was. And then when I came upon the idea of using their unborn, or he's actually like a 6-month-old when they land, kind of a Tarzan kind of story. I thought, well, how would the character develop in that environment, right? So it sounds stupid, but in a way, the character then kind of leads you through the story. When you set a world up that you really believe in with rules and it all makes sense, then if you understand who the character is, he or she will lead you through that landscape. Again, I'm kind of intuitive with everything, and it sounds too high-minded to put it that way, but
it actually makes sense. Yeah.
No, it makes plenty of sense.
And sometimes it does take me a while with the character to get to understand the character. Sometimes I'll realize the world is more interesting than the character, and so I'll have to kind of step back and figure out what makes the character more interesting than just being the protagonist of the story. Because I want readers to respond to the character and tell me how much obviously I want them to love the whole thing, but when somebody says, man, I really like this character, this is a great character, that's when you feel like you succeeded. And that can't happen if you don't understand the rules of the world you've created. Mm-hmm. You can't have things happen in a story that have violated what you've already established. Hawaiian Dick, I said there's a supernatural element to Hawaiian Dick, so we know that at the offset. But if I made that too big at some point, like exploded it beyond the boundaries of what the first series established, then people aren't going to buy the story anymore. It doesn't make any sense. You've got to stay consistent. And that's the only way you can keep readers invested in any drama or anything is if they know what the parameters of the story are and they're curious to see how the character reacts within those parameters.
Okay. Okay. You're also asked, how would you expose music in a comic? Is it possible to actually, I guess, to actually have like the idea of there being music in the background or what have you? How would you handle that in a comic?
I'm sorry. What? Well, I didn't hear the first part of the question.
Okay. How would you expose music in a comic?
Oh, that's a good question. Golly, my throat. Well, I've got a book that I'm doing with, and actually I've talked about this book a little bit in my YouTube channel because a lot of it is done, and it's set in 1963 on the coast of California, and it revolves around, to some degree, there's a like a surf band that's in the book. Man, I sound like what's his name. And so one of the key questions was, how do we communicate music in the book? And because of the artist Shane White we trust each other. We've known each other for years, and we can put our heads together and kind of figure that out. We came up with like, there's a scene where we want it obvious that the music has hit the scene, right? But it's a comic book, so it's not going to hit the reader's ears. So he developed kind of a visual shorthand where everything is kind of distorted based on what we think the sound would be like. And then the characters, you're trying to create body language that responds to what we think the music would sound like as best we can, without just having the characters go, "Hey, that's music that's playing right now, and it's really awesome," or whatever. So this is like a literal answer to that question. I don't know if that's how literal they wanted to know, but so I feel like, and I at some point I should, if I had the page handy, I'd link to it. But I feel like we've done a pretty good job of doing that, understanding that you can only carry it so far in a comic book. That's, so I mentioned jazz, and like, I'm a big fan of sort of classic 50s and 60s bop and cool jazz. And I've always wanted to, Hawaiian Dick's always tried to have sort of a jazzy vibe to it. And like the opening scene in the first issue, he drops the needle on, it's actually a Billie Holiday record, but he drops the needle on a record, and we see the record. And even though I know you can't hear the music, hopefully it reminds you of things you've seen where the needles are dropped on records, to the point where somewhere in your brain it triggers that response. If that makes any sense? So anyway, that's the best I can do.
Okay, then. Okay,
wait, I've got one for you. I'm so psyched because somebody asked me to ask their question. And it came before that one, so I'm going to try to squeeze it in. Maggie Gear wants to know what you think of Chinatown and Harper.
Oh, geez. Wow. Chinatown. Oh, man. I mean, I could go on. The movies Chinatown and Harper? Chinatown is a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. It is a huge influence on me from an early age, before I even really understood much about it. Harper? You're asking about Harper? Harper is a Paul Newman movie that is also, I mean, all these film noirs and neo-noirs and detective stories and 70s and 80s and 90s detective stories set in earlier eras are a huge influence on the way I think about stuff, and the approach they take with things. So, yeah, I mean, I love all that stuff. It's I could go on and on about the influence of films on my work, but yeah, and I try, one thing I try to do is anything I read or watch or listen to or enjoy, I always try to see if I can take something out of that and apply it to what I'm doing. Like it's an exercise I go through, right? Whether it's a storytelling element or a time shift or a character or what have you. So, and those films like that are rich with, like there's a moment at the beginning of Harper where he's looking for coffee, and I'm thinking of this I haven't seen the movie in years, but he's looking for coffee, and he looks in his trash can, and there's a coffee filter with old coffee grounds in it, and he picks it up out of the trash and puts it in the coffee maker and uses that. Like that's a little moment that tells you a ton about the character in a real, it's shorthand for, and so I see something like that, and I try to kind of apply it to what I'm doing with something. It all goes into it's like jazz. So jazz is a thing where musicians, the more music they hear, the more they have at their disposal when they when they improvise, right? So that's kind of how that is. So the more pop culture that fascinates me, I can stuff into my brain, the more I have to draw on when I'm doing my own thing. So.
Okay, going along with the music. One, if you could have a soundtrack CD released with your collection of Hawaiian Dick, what would it be? And two, what music do you listen to, if any, while you're writing?
I feel like, in the early issues of Hawaiian Dick, like the single issues, it's not in the trades. I think we actually did list recommendations for listening. I'm trying to think I think I recommended some Stan Kenton. He had a kind of a Cuban phase with some really hot playing that was kind of like simulated maybe like the scenes in the jungle. I started with Billie Holiday because she's sad and broken, and the idea was to reflect that the character at this point is kind of sad and broken. Yeah, in the case of Hawaiian Dick, it's funny because I really dig like retro tiki culture and tiki bars and stuff like that. But I realize how cheesy that stuff is. And I didn't want to be completely cheesy with the book, but I did want to throw some elements that weren't really reflective of the actual 50s. You know what I mean? Like they were just, it was bringing some of that cheese into it just for a design aesthetic or what have you. So, but I wouldn't, and I love that 50s cheesy lounge music, but I don't think that's what I'd listen to with Hawaiian Dick. I think it'd be more early 50s, mid 50s bop, and maybe some cool jazz from the late 50s, like Miles Davis and stuff like that. And then what I listen to, I either won't listen to anything or else I'll listen to music really, really loud. Like if I'm home alone, I've got this big ass speaker behind me, and I will play like I had a mix for Savage that was really like anthemic, like really loud indie rock that was kind of like carried me along mentally. Boom, boom, boom. It almost has to be loud because at a certain point it just becomes noise that pushes me instead of stuff I'm trying to listen to. If that makes any sense.
Okay, so you're not listening to the words so much as the rhythm of the music.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I'm doing a book now that I hope to do at Image next year. That's kind of a hardcore, ultra-violent biker kind of thing. And so I've put together a playlist. It's a combination of like biker metal with like 60s rock, like the Doors, like Roadhouse Blues, that kind of stuff. And I'll blast that sometimes when I'm trying to kind of push through a scene.
On Spotify.
So,
I think even Snyder did for metal. He made a metal playlist.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'll be released as CD.
I have some playlists on Spotify. I have some playlists on Spotify related to stuff I've written that I should probably make public. But when I announce this book that I'm talking about right now, I'll probably link to the Spotify playlist. I did a book called 76 at Image that we never even finished because for whatever reason, I don't want to get into it.
Yeah, quit doing that.
But yeah, I mean, don't even. Oh, jeez.
Aww.
Hawaiian Dick from day one. Aloha Hawaiian Dick came out on time. Every other Hawaiian Dick has been delayed terminally. But so 76. We actually had 4 issues in the can before we solicited it, and then disaster struck an artist. And someday I want to finish it and collect it. But each issue of 76 had a playlist in the back from 1976 related to the story that was in the book. So it is something I do think about.
I got another question.
You did?
Yes. I'm doing a thing. I'm participating. American Swordfish wants to know what you want to see in good comics.
I just want to. What I like to see in good comics is
besides your name on the cover. Like
I like to see creators that are. I like to see artists and writers that are invested together in the story and the character and telling the story that they want to tell first and foremost. For me, that's usually what turns me on more than editorial guidance, over guidance from editorial, where I can tell that there's a hand at play behind what these guys are trying to do. That's why I tend to gravitate towards creator-owned comics more and more.
Yes.
Where it's just, we're in an era now where, especially with Image, where creators can tell the stories they absolutely want to tell without people telling them how to tell them. And it doesn't always work, but it's usually more interesting. So Yeah, just more unbridled kind of, and that's why I talked about Vision and Mr. Miracle and stuff like that. Even Hawkeye, when Matt Fraction started Hawkeye, that was a struggle for him to get that book approved, and it was really clearly kind of an indie creator-owned vibe to it almost, and it worked, you know. So I just wish they'd let artists and writers have a little bit more freedom with what they're doing and how they approach things.
I think that would be a good idea.
Hey guys, I am going to have to bail here in a minute,
Sure.
but I would love to come back and talk more about some of these other questions that people are asking. I got something. My son had a phone call earlier that I have to I have to kind of deal with. I hate to do that. I know I've only been here for like an hour and a half, but I'll answer a couple more questions. Any question you want to throw at me? I'll ask a couple more questions if you don't mind, if I kind of bail in here in about the next 10 minutes.
Not a problem.
Okay, and then I promise, I'll come back and we can talk about anything else you want to too.
Okay.
So, is there something specific you guys want to ask, or you want me to?
There's been a few that I think we lost in the chat.
Let's see.
I'm sorry, we don't have super chat, so
That's fine.
We don't have that power yet.
Tim Morris, I'll tell you right now, Tim Morris is asking for Kickstarter tips. I'll give you 2.
Yeah, he's the one who did the column. Did you see some of the stuff I showed you about that? That really cute looking comic, like military and
yeah, that is super cute.
That's him.
Okay, yeah, Tim, that's a really cute looking book. I was just telling HB that.
And then your favorite writers, and then what makes a good anti-hero or anti-villain. Woo!
Okay, all right, we'll go through that.
They're piling up now.
Kickstarter tips, I've done 2. The first one was finished a little late. The second one is real late. So even though the second one involves like 20 contributors, which have been impossible to coordinate and put together, I would recommend, and I mean, no matter how hard it is to do this, getting the whole darn thing finished before you launch it. You'll make a lot more money that way, and also you won't have nightmares trying to finish the book. We didn't do that with the first one, and we had a bunch of people involved, but somehow it came to, which was bad karma. Somehow it came together only a few months late, and I guess that experience tricked me into thinking I could make it work the second time around. But we are, my goal is to get the second one done this summer, and I just don't want, at this point, I just don't want it to be full of shortcuts and stuff that's already been published, because there's so much cool stuff hanging out there. So ultimately the goal is to have an object that people want on their shelves and want to cherish, you know what I'm saying? Something really cool. But just pre-plan, get as much of it done as you can and show people what you have done. A friend of mine named Ryan Brown has done a couple, including one for God Hates Astronauts, where he had it all laid out in like a print file ahead of time, and they knew exactly what they were getting, and he got it handled. So that's the main thing. And keep people engaged. If you're thinking, I don't know if you're thinking about doing that for the column thing or whatever, but if it's something people are unfamiliar with, then spend a lot of time building an audience for it before you go into it, so that they're waiting for it when it comes. Don't introduce people with the campaign, if that makes sense. So that's my advice there. Favorite writers? Was that a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Favorite comic book writers: Warren Ellis, James Robinson, Alan Moore, Grant Morrison at his peak. Current writers, I love what Tom King is doing. Jason Aaron blows my mind. I've known him since before he was in comics. That guy, if you told me when I first hung out with him that he was going to turn into the writer he has, I wouldn't have believed you. He can write anything and write it effectively. Trying to think who else these days really. Jeff Lemire, I love his independent stuff. I don't like his work for hire quite as much, but like Royal City is the thing he's doing at Image that's really cool. Fred Van Lente is a guy who is way underrated, and he's done some really cool stuff at Valiant that I like a lot.
You've mentioned Tom King.
Yeah, Tom King is great. Was that? And it's funny. The funny thing about Tom is one of the first things he did was with Tim Seeley, who's a good friend of mine. And I remember when I saw it announced, I was like, oh, there's just Tom King. Who's this guy? You know, he's some ex-spook. They're just using his name for, you know, for cred or whatever. And Tim was like, no, this guy's contributions are pretty good. And yeah, immediately I was like, hey, I like him way more than you, Tim. So, but they did that right with Tom though. Tom kind of worked his, like they helped him ease into comic writing and had him collaborate with people, I think, before he figured out what he wanted to do on his own, which I wish they would do with more guys who come in from other mediums, because I don't think there's any medium that translates naturally to comic writing. But I think Tom, and now he's established himself so that he's allowed to put a fresh spin on existing things, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. So, yeah, what was it? Scott Lobdell, not so much. What was there was another. I'm sorry. I'm trying to run through the.
I wrote some down in case you had to leave and wanted to come back to them. But I did copy down some of the questions because they were popping up fast.
Okay.
Have you ever caught yourself in a Mary Sue situation while you were writing?
Oh no.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I don't think writing women is as hard as people seem to think it is.
Or a
Gary Sue.
Or a Gary Sue, or whatever. Yeah, whatever it is.
Gary
the dude version.
For me, I don't understand. Okay, this is my thinking. I think a good writer can write any character, any ethnicity, any background, if they are empathetic by nature, if they can put themselves in the shoes of these people, understand the character, and understand what how cultural influences might impact that particular character, right? All black characters aren't the same. All women aren't the same. All, inner city kids aren't the same. So you've got to create your own character and then imagine how they would react to those circumstances. That's my thinking. I don't think there's anything that by nature makes somebody who's been through the experience a better candidate to write than another candidate unless they're a better writer. I mean, I just firmly believe that.
I want to give you a hug.
Well, I've seen too many women who can't write women. I've seen too many, and trust me, I've seen a lot of white dudes who should not be writing black dudes. I mean, I've seen that too, and there's ego involved. I think everybody thinks they can do this, no matter what people tell them. But I've never felt limited or restricted in what kind of character, what sex the character is, what ethnicity the character is, because I feel like I've exposed myself to enough of the world and I can relate to people enough that I know what my character would do, how they would act, how they would talk, how they would respond to the situations I put them in. So that's the thing. I'm kind of hard line on that. I get tired of hearing that from people. But there seems to be this idea that bad writers who are of a certain demographic are going to be better writers than people. You know what I'm saying? It's not the way it is. That's not
either have the talent or you don't, or that skill or you don't.
Priest actually went on an interview and talked about that as well. He says that he says you shouldn't, you have to study these characters.
Right. That priest interview that people have been quoting, by the way, that took place at Planet Comic Con, which I was at a couple weeks ago. A friend of mine who's an exceptionally smart young guy who's a critic and blogger. He's definitely on the social justice spectrum, but he's a reasonable, logical guy about things. And he understands that some of his friends drive me up a freaking tree because they just want to jump on anything that moves in terms of criticism, especially if it's a white dude. But that whole interview is worth checking out because it's been extrapolated and people have kind of used some of it to put a different spin on it than what Priest was trying to say. Basically, Priest is arguing for diversity and inclusion, but also making the point that people shouldn't be pigeonholed, which I agree with completely. And Priest is that dude. He can write. I mean, I don't care if it's a black character, a white character, whatever. I've been studying his Deathstroke a little bit, which didn't grab me right out of the gate. And he does some stuff in there. He does some stuff in there that I have tried to do, and I've been a little nervous about. And it's boring storytelling stuff, but seeing him do it and do it effectively kind of gave me more confidence in the way I was approaching things. And he's been around forever, you know. I mean, he knows all the tricks and everything. But I recommend people track that whole interview down and listen to what he was saying, because yeah, he doesn't owe anybody anything. He's not going to try to sugarcoat anything. He's just going to tell you how it is. And I would recommend that. Somebody mentions Charles Soule here in the questions. Charles is a dude I've known since long before he was in comics. When I worked at Image full time about 15 years ago, he was pitching us stuff. And he sent me out of the blue a trade paperback he had written and self-published called Strongman, and asked me for my thoughts on it. And I immediately said, yeah, this is pretty good. You're pretty good. Here's the road I would take. And he has blown right past me as a creator. So there's a whole lot of guys like Charles that I knew when they were coming up that have absolutely blitzed me in terms of their career. But yeah, Charles is great. I'm a big fan and a longtime friend of Charles. So, all right. So I'm rambling at this point. Yeah, if you guys don't mind, I gotta
go right ahead.
Deal with this. It's a good thing I'm dealing with here. But before my kid goes to bed. But absolutely, write questions down and stuff. There's nothing. I mean, I'll talk about anything. We'll do it again sometime, and you can talk about me when I'm gone. And yeah, the channel, HP probably has a link. It's the Comic Book Writer. If you dig what you see there, subscribe. Like I said, hopefully I'll have this Battle Hymn video up either tonight or in the morning, and I'd love to know what people think of that, if that's something they'd like to see more of. So, and thanks for the questions. This has been great, you guys. I really appreciate how cool and open-minded and responsive people have been when I've done this kind of thing. So I've been recommending other people give it a shot too.
So we're just gonna close it for tonight?
I think so.
All right. Okay, well, I'm gonna bail for now, guys. But like I said, HP, let me know the next time you guys want to do something, and if you can put up with more of me, I'd be glad to do it. All right. Okay. See you later, guys.
Bye.
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 I'm a little late.
So I think we're all set for tonight. I hope you guys had a good time.
Oh, Kitty got even cuter since the last time I looked at the screen.
Oh, that is adorable. It looks like
I think
like a calico almost.
Yeah, I was trying to draw an Ethan Van Sciver because you guys said to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an Ethan Van Sciver cat.
Giant drawing everybody as kitties.
Well, he's got to have the Green Lantern symbol on him somewhere.
Oh yeah, he'll have it on.
Maybe the book.
Yes, yes. No, that's his mind struggle. The book will be mind struggle and
meow struggle. Meow struggle.
Meow struggle. Hang on, I put that as a reference, or I'll forget later. Hang on, we're gonna do it right now. I hope you guys don't mind. We're gonna do it before we leave. Meow struggle.
Oh no.
You got to, yeah.
Yeah.
Kitty Van Sciver.
Yes. Van Sciver.
The Green Lantern collar has been suggested.
Yeah. Should I swap his fur? Should I swap his fur to being green?
That's up to you. I would say do two versions and see what he likes best.
Okay, yeah. Like, I'm probably gonna, maybe on his forehead I'll give him the Green Lantern symbol. I mean, it's not fully done yet, but yeah, I thought it was cute. I think I'm going somewhere with this.
No, Ethan is not a Red Lantern, so he can't be.
Ethan likes to be, or was it a Yellow Lantern? Apparently, he was all like, "If I could be any lantern, I'd be yellow." But I always see him as a Blue Lantern.
Yeah, he's too mellow to be a yellow.
That's why I call him the Hope Corgi for a reason. Like, look at that guy. He is the Hope Corgi.
Yes.
Nobody can deny that. Okay, Ethan is officially the Hope Corgi. Everybody's wondering, will the Hope Corgi be canon? It's like, yes, he's already canon. He draws for this fucking book. That's where he's been. all this time, guys. I am a genius. I have solved the problem. Mystery solved. It is me. It's shit.
A green bow tie has been suggested as well.
Ooh, a green bow tie would work really well.
Because he likes bow ties.
Oh, yeah.
He gave it to the Flash, remember?
I will totally give him a bow tie. Should it be on his tail? Should he own a Green Lantern ring?
If you give him the Green Lantern ring, put it on the tail.
Yeah.
Like Dexter, but green.
Or should he be just like bouncing it in his hand like this?
Like levitating it?
Just like,
Yeah, that's when his hand's up there. You can put it up there, just floating in the air with the glow around it.
Yeah. Or maybe give him all the lantern rings. They're all floating around it.
Yeah. Because he created the Spectrum, so he should be credited for that.
Yeah. I like when he talks about the Spectrums, and did he go on a rant about the White Lantern? He was all like, "This is what it should have been," but everybody was like, "No."
Okay. Switchpoint has an interesting compromise.
Yeah.
Bow tie with a Flash symbol on it, and a Green Lantern ring.
Oh, that's a good idea. Like, so something like this, right? And then we put a Green Lantern ring in the center.
Yeah.
Be like this. Or we could do it on his tail. I think it would look too much like a girl if we did that. It would look kind of like this.
Oh, Cat Jordan and the Kitty Lantern Corps.
Do it.
That's his new book.
The Kitty Lantern Corps. Meow, meow.
Oh, that would be so cool. But then you'd have to have Dexter as a human.
Dexter could just be
that
the
would be funny. That would be great.
They can fight like other cats. They'll be like, meow, meow. We don't, a Dexter, stop being a dick.
No, Dexter is not that bad.
No, he's not. He's just filled with rage because his owner died.
His owner was killed, and everybody kind of booted him around. So, and the one who loves him now is Atrocitus, which is kind of like, of all things.
Isn't Atrocitus like the super bad guy?
Yeah, and he pets Dexter and takes care of him. And Dexter is like, you mess with Atrocitus, I'm gonna rip you a new one.
Well, yeah, because his last master died, and that's super sad. I remember reading it, like, everybody, like, people that don't even read comics read it up on that thing about Dexter. Like, who the fuck is this? And they're all like, oh my god, why? And I'm like, it's so sad.
I read that Green Lantern story, and they were cutting onions where I am. That's how it hit me really bad.
And Dexter already existed before that, didn't he? Like, that was the first time we learned his origin. Right?
Wait a minute. Who's calling me a dude? I have a deep voice, but I am definitely female.
Yeah.
What? We've been getting like trolled or heckled by him.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Yeah.
We're cool enough for a
heckler? We have our official troll.
Wait,
yes, we have an official heckler troll.
I want to see. Okay.
Oh, jeez. Kitty Artist Pro Secrets with Kitty Van Sciver.
Kitty Van Sciver, meow meow.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, I want to see. I would make a joke comic where it's like, look, it's an Artist Pro Secret, and then like a laser dot goes by and he just like stops everything and everything. And then after everything's done, he's like, it's okay, everybody. We could just go back and we can redo it again. we had a situation. Just do that. We actually have a heckler. Are we getting that cool? We can get hecklers?
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
Dr.
Jordan Pickleson is going to have to come back.
I'm sad. We didn't have Fat Panther. I am so sad.
Fat Panther is always awesome.
But we didn't have him today. I'm so sad. I miss my Panther.
Yeah, I noticed.
He must be with comics division now with his stream.
Oh, yeah.
Or he might have been in Spikes with the Umbrella guy.
We actually we have a new member of the Harem stream,
yes,
but she did not make it because she was in the other stream and she already promised.
Yeah.
we will be setting up with something with her. I'm hoping to one day get Dark Philly and Sashi in here too. We're probably gonna have to set up an early morning one for those.
Once you hit 180 subscribers, you're automatically entitled to, by YouTube, to an automated heckler.
Wait, I have that. We have that many subscribers. Sweet. We're actually cool for once. I want to know where the fuck is this? Where's this heckler? I wanna put this on a wall or something and be like, I'm so proud of myself.
Dr. Jordan Pickleson. Yeah, the whole time I'm like, not gonna say nothing.
Just want this in my life. Thank you.
How long until we get the Dan Slott or Mark Wade one? Or did we already have them before?
Oh man, I want to. Did the Dan Slott one ever come into our stream?
I don't think I think we did get him on when we were first streaming on Hot Pig.
Yeah, we need them on their stream.
Yeah,
that's the perfect setting for them.
We should get I just want more of those. Like somebody should just be evil corporate Marvel and evil corporate other comic companies and just come on and be all like, I hate you. That way they're timeless.
Okay,
just
let's see
when EA comes on and just all like, we're just see all your shit.
We did have Pathorin in the beginning. I just must have missed him.
Oh shit! I think we need a fake DNC troll to give HP some fun.
Oh jeez.
What do you think, HP?
That would be funny.
Dan Slott Cat would look like
can mimic him. He's just a special kind of dumb.
I mean, you did it's roast him today.
Yeah.
We have all the kitty channels. Here we go. Let me go back from Bikini. Has some really good suggestions. We have the Harem Kitty stream, Diverse Eating Kittens, the Cat Wonder, Hot Pink. We're not going there for that one. Okay, we got, let's see, Cat Wolf Plays, Weaponized Nerd Kitty, Feline Time, Kid X Division. Okay.
Just some feline?
Yeah. No, he's the Tomcat. He's like Top Cat. Oh no, Meta, don't go there.
Meta, what the?
You're too young for that. Don't go there.
You're like 14.
Don't go there.
That is the exact age to go there, actually.
Okay, fine.
That's when it starts.
You shut your mouth.
We are not corrupting the youth of this country.
Yeah, please.
Let's just to read good comic books. Then we can corrupt all we want.
Yeah, I want to be. If we were the king of comics, I would we'd be awesome at it. I think we'd be like, what are you guys? It's like we've taken over. We're king of comics now. We're the kings. It's like, but you're women. It's like, silence, peasant. You don't get to fucking talk.
Okay, we have to
Kitty Point.
For Switch Point. We have to do Switch Kitty, because then you got to have Crumple Kitty, because you can't just do Kitty Point. That's for both of you.
Oh, that's true. Okay, Switch Kitty and
Crumple Kitty.
That is a good idea. Who else would there be?
And we got Spike Kitty.
Oh, Spiky Kitty.
That was so cute.
What?
That Spike Kitty you did is so freaking cute.
Thank you. I wish I could do something like in comics with kitties. Like maybe I should just make a comic about kitties.
There's a bunch of them out there, but I think your angle on it would be definitely unique. Oh, Catang Cummings, Switch Kitty, Kitty Frugal. No, it's Frugal Kitty. It's got to be Frugal Kitty.
Frugal.
Frugal.
Oh no, that doesn't.
Oh no, Frou. No, he's not Frou. He's Frugal Kitty. Underground Kitty.
Underground Kitty. Then there's a.
Oh yeah, Switch Kitty and Crumple Kitty are brothers.
They are? I didn't know that.
Well, he's saying, so Switch Point is saying that it's the Point brothers, him and Crumple.
Yeah, I thought they were the Flatmeisters. I'm not very good at things. Okay, so I think I got this down. Okay, that looks bad, but
that looks really good so far.
Yeah, you can also play with it.
Oh, Nightwolf, shame on you. Uncle Ethan said to be a cat. And he says, I'm a wolf, and I will not be part of this cat art. I have a palico on my Twitter. Well, la-dee-da.
There we go. Well, I did draw Nightwolf a ton of pictures the other night, so
yeah, I did see those. Those are really, really good.
Like, I am not drawing anything else for Nightwolf that I've almost killed.
Oh yeah, he got more than enough.
Yeah,
ooh, Samurai Kitten. Oh yeah, if Nightwolf was Wolf Kitty, he could be like a Maine Coon because those things are big. And
yes, they are. I have one.
My sniper
I love the Maine.
I don't even like cats.
That is my cat. That's my cat. You know the one that knows how to sniper things. That's my cat. He's a Maine Coon.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick. I love him though.
Okay. Oh, ouch.
What?
Now we have the dogs, the villains. We have Dogs Visaggio, Pup Slot, Bitchel Pupperez, Puppy Antos. Oh, geez.
Oh, I don't like the dogs with the bad guys.
I like dogs too.
I like doggies.
Okay, we'll make them something else that's really super annoying we have to deal with.
Mosquitoes.
Fleas. They're fleas. They're the fleas.
They're the fleas, yeah.
We just like it.
because doggies are cute.
Yeah, but except that Tamarin Bone villain would have worked.
Oh, yeah, that's too hard. That's too hard to resist. Yeah, but let's make them ugly dogs.
Yeah, Heather Houndtoast.
Oh man.
Oh
dear cats.
Who else? I don't know. I just know that I like drawing things, and I may never make it into the industry now because I've joined up with you guys.
They don't know
No,
your name.
they'll come to their senses and they'll find you.
That'd be funny if like they hire someone within the group and we're like, we hang with you during the day, but during the night.
Yeah, by day. It's like suddenly we one day announce on our streams, I'm in.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. You've infiltrated.
I'm in. They don't even know it's fucking me.
Yeah.
It's like, if it's really you, stick this.
Okay.
I do like that slot.
Yeah, James has got it right. Nightwolf, you cannot be an evil dog because in your Thunderdome, you rolled over and let them rub your belly.
Oh yeah, that was the joke I heard. Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be on there this Sunday. I'm gonna be on there this Sunday at 8. And my opponent is the formidable Spike.
Oh my god, you're gonna get eaten.
I'm gonna get eaten alive, yes.
No offense, but
I know he's like, oh man. I'm boning up, but dang.
I gotta watch that. What are you gonna fight about? Oh wait, that's right, you're not known.
Well, okay, we get 3 questions that we know beforehand, and we get 4 that we don't.
Yeah, but you don't know what the subject is, do you?
No. Until I'll know Saturday night what my 3 questions are. But it's basically you have to argue a point.
Yeah. Nobody knows what it is though.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So I did ask for Iron Man, so there should be at least one question keyed to Iron Man, I'm hoping. Because I've been boning up on the movies.
Oh man, the movies.
Yes. If I lose, Nightwolf will not let me live it down. Well, I will give it a good fight as opposed to somebody who rolled over. I will fight.
Nightwolf.
And Comics Division Alfie's on right. He should be on really soon. He's going to have Feisty Fan, who is our newest member of the Harem.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to having her on. We were on a stream together the other day. I forget what stream it was.
Yeah, she is so cool.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have another Well, like so many women are joining up with Harem Stream. It's wonderful. And I love having every single one of you on because it just showcases what they don't believe. And they've always said like the women have always been oppressed in comics, and meanwhile we're just chilling here and we're like, so that new Iron Man, what do you think? All that other shit. Meanwhile,
there's proof that chicks have been reading comics. There was no gatekeeping. Yes, there are dudes that are like the living version of comic book guy, but they're few and far between.
I never ran into them. In all my years of going to comic book shops or getting comics, I never ran into one once.
The only time I really ran into somebody that I would say was one of those kind of dudes was that one time at the Spider-Man movie, waiting to get in. And then one time at a convention, and he was weird. He wasn't just harping on stuff about like questioning my comics fandom. He was weird because I was there with a cosplay troupe at that point.
Oh yeah, that must have been fun.
Yeah, he started this really like strange, like, definitely doesn't socialize much dude started following me around, and I have to be polite. I was with a charity cosplay group.
Oh shit.
So I have to put smile and put on your like customer service kind of face. You don't want to be a jerk, and I usually try not to be a jerk unless you give me a really good reason to. Anyway, just say it. Autism could be some Asperger, I don't know. I'm not going to diagnose the dude, but like he was all over the place, following me around, telling me he would go from topic to topic so fast. And it was like nerd cred questioning to, do you know what character you're even cosplaying? Like, no shit. Like, I won't cosplay a character I've never heard of. I have to like the character enough.
Yeah.
To get into it, to put that much effort into it, and then but then it would go from that to him trying to tell me what his ideal girl type was, and this and that, and he was like, so he was sitting there like he was like, it's too bad that I see you have some tattoos. I don't like tattoos, and I'm sitting here going, I couldn't. Oh no, what a loss! Like now I'm gonna miss out on this guy, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
You must be so heartbroken.
Yeah, but like for somebody, yeah, right, Christian. For somebody who's somebody that I was totally almost their type, but not quite. They sure followed me around for a long ass time.
This sounds like I've never really been heckled by somebody like that at a con, or anywhere, but I have been flirted on by weirdos like that before.
Yeah, I've been flirted with, and I couldn't tell like him. I was like, I can't tell if he's trying to flirt or trying to be an asshole because he won't stop following me. So I'm like, you like me or not? Because he would like name stuff that he did like, and like you're almost my ideal type, but you smoke, because I did at the time. So he's like, it's too bad you smoke. I don't like smokers.
Good to go away.
Yeah, and then it was like, it's too bad you have tattoos. I don't like people with tattoos. And I was like, why are you following me then? But I had to smile and be nice because I was in cosplay representing them at the time. And like, so other than that, honestly, the only time I've ever had, I guess, people being mean, it's always been chicks.
Oh yeah, they're the nastiest little.
Always been chicks, catty ass bitches at these cons, man.
He's there. It's like and they're always like, we must defend the women, and I'm like, you don't really need to. They're kind of jerks.
I've gotten awkward flirted while I was doing the cosplay thing at conventions that I've worked before, but it was like adorable. Aww. Where I'm going, I don't like you, but oh, so cute. You're so sweet. Bye. But my favorite one for that was I don't smoke anymore. Anyway, just to set things straight a little bit there. But there was this one time again, still worked with the same cosplay group at the time. And he had to be like way younger than me, but he came up to me and stopped me real quick. And, you know, he was definitely stuttering. Like, he was definitely like nervous as hell. And I couldn't figure out what was going on for a minute. But then, you know, he kind of told me that that he's not good with people and not good in public places. And I could feel him on that level. I have social anxiety like crazy. And he was like describing that to me. But then he was like, but at the same time, I had to come and at least say something to you and say hi to you or say that, you know, I like you. I think you're really cool. And he was like, you know, I don't want anything out of it. I needed you to know.
God, that's the greatest thing.
Right? But he was explaining that like he's never had the guts to go up to a stranger before, let alone like a chick stranger, I guess. And he was definitely really young. I know he was younger than me. So I'm still not 100% sure why he like was telling me some stuff, but it felt really good. Like I felt like my existence walking around this convention somehow helped somebody. Like,
yes, you are a hero.
Right? Like, I'm not sure how I helped, but they were kind of talking like, I don't know, coming up and saying something to me. They just said that I looked super approachable for being somebody in a cosplay troupe. I guess somebody that's working there, I guess. I'm not sure what he was trying to get at. But it's like he wanted to tell me he appreciated that and that he liked me. And then, you know, stuff like that. And that'll stay with me forever just because I'm like, oh, that's so freaking cute. Like, that makes me feel good about doing all the cosplay stuff, because the whole time that I was out there, I would hear behind my back like really bitchy comments from chicks, you know, about my costume, about attention seeking, or about this or about that. There was one time I was doing a charity maid cafe with them, so I was a maid outfit.
Aww.
And I was walking around with a sign saying, you know, what the location was of the maid cafe. And it was for charity. I'm Piper. That's Piper's talking a lot now. Piper finally almost finished her drink. So
keep going,
now
Piper.
I'm talking.
Story. You have to keep going.
But I know one that I hated, or it was actually, I think it was the same convention. And it really hurt because I'm going around with a sign for a charity maid cafe.
Yeah.
And I walk past this couple. And right when I get like right next to him, the chick goes, well, I guess sex sells. And then you can hear mumbling about the maid outfit while I'm still walking. And I'm like, but it's for fucking charity. And I'm just like dressed up as, you know, your typical like anime French maid cuteness.
Yeah, it's not like you're trying to be a slut or anything. You're just there to have fun. And I have friends that do dress up as maids all the time.
Takes balls with somebody with, yes, because I do have really bad social anxiety, and cosplay was actually one thing that helped me with that, because I've wanted to go to conventions and I never did, because stranger danger, you know, crowds, people I don't know, even if we all have the same interests and I know that they're all probably as socially awkward as I am, you know, I was still too nervous. Cosplay helped because once you have the costume on, or once I have a costume on, I'm not Piper anymore. I am either that character or I'm at least Piper as that character. So as far as when it comes to cosplayers getting jealous and destroying each other's costumes, from what I know, there are there really is some cattiness. That's usually when you get into the almost the professional cosplayers. You get really high up there. The ones that go to competitions. I don't know if they really destroy each other's stuff, but the ones that are just doing it for fun or kind of doing it for other people, like me, I did it because, like I said, it would get me to the conventions, and then I found a way to do it for other people in a way, like for charity and stuff. So that was my thing. That let me talk to people. So yeah, I will take that with me forever. Was this kid, like, he was almost shaking and he was stuttering and I had no idea what was happening for a minute. He was kind of like telling me what sounded like, this almost life story really, really fast though, while stuttering. Arena, that would be fucking awesome. Somebody start a Kickstarter for that. But actually, and because of that, and getting to get a feel for or not for conventions in general, I can go around not in the cosplay too. Now, took a while. At first, I would only be in cosplay if I was going to be at the convention at all. But thanks to that a little bit, now I can get by. I'd rather have a buddy with me, but I can kind of get by a little bit if it's just me without a buddy going to like a panel that they don't want to, and not be in costume as long as nobody talks to me too much.
Haha, I did it, guys.
Yay!
Where's the real skate? There we go.
And that kid gave me his name, but for the life of me, I just remembered the conversation. I feel really shitty.
Why do you feel shitty?
I feel shitty that I couldn't remember the guys by the end of the weekend. I had like been talked to by so many people that I could remember faces, not names. But
I suck at names. But you'll remember this. You'll remember him forever.
Yeah, like I will remember this kid because it made me feel so much better after, the mean catty stuff and after, some of the weirder people who were like either mean or flirting. I couldn't tell.
Oh,
yeah.
Tim is saying it was him.
Sure.
Sure, Tim. Sure.
I think this kid was like 16 or something. I was 27, 28, 29ish. I'm not sure. But he seems like he was around 16, but but yeah, that made me feel better that like this nervous as heck was coming up to me just saying that he had seen me around the convention and had been wanting to say something but had been shy, and he happened to catch me not with any of the group or anything, walking on my own, and he said that he had to make himself say hi because I seemed approachable and this and that, and I was like, see, that's awesome. That's what I cosplay for. That and kids are a blast when they think you're that character.
Oh yeah, they are. I used to cosplay a bit. Just a brief.
Yeah. I'm not very talented and skilled, so for me it gets kind of expensive because I have to either pay somebody else to sew some stuff or buy items and put them together in a certain way to make it a costume. And it's safe to say that maybe Meta and what was that other guy? Pickle Pants? Maybe they're both hecklers and trolls.
Well, Meta's always been. He's young. So
I know he's not being.
Yeah.
If I was I would throw a Me Too on him. On which one?
On the creepy one, not the
creepy
kid.
one, or the scared kid.
Not the kid. Not the kid.
The kid was a good kid. The other guy I quit.
Yeah, I can see it now. I am become Pickle Son. Okay, yes. From now on, you're Pickle Pants to me.
Switchpoint had a cute one. The image of the kid that went to Wonder Woman and Flash cosplayers because he had lost his mom.
Yes.
And they helped him find his mom. That's cool.
See, I have another really cute story.
It's like, wasn't that also like he went to them and he was asked later why he went to them, and it's because he said he wasn't allowed to talk to strangers. He had to go and find a responsible adult, and he knew that Wonder Woman and the Flash were responsible good people.
Yes, that they were the good guys. It was so cute. And they helped him. See, that's like my favorite stuff about cosplaying. Yes, there is a huge self-esteem boost if your cosplay is good and people want to take a picture of you. I mean, with you or of you. Because then it's like you feel like a mini celebrity for a minute.
Yeah.
But for no good reason.
It says he tried asking the Batman cosplayer to help him find his parents, and Batman walked away pissed off.
What the hell? I didn't know that part. That's not nice.
That's not good.
Fuck you, Batman. That's not real Batman. That's a bad guy, because obviously Batman would be like the first to help a small child.
Would be like, I'm sorry, they're dead.
Yeah. Oh no. Oh, okay. No, Tim says, there's a dead parents joke. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Did you ever see the cosplayers of the dead parents?
It's a bad case, but
the dead parent cosplayer. Did you ever see those?
Yes.
There's a sequel group. And it's called Drunk Uncle Ben, and it's Uncle Ben, but he's super drunk. I actually am I know somebody that dresses up as Alfred at conventions, and he does the old school Adam West Batman, like Alfred and Superman, and so he has the phone and everything, and I've seen at conventions all the Batman will run up to him and go, Alfred. I'm like, this is the best shit ever.
Pro cosplayers are so good. I will never get at that level. It'll always be hobby level for me, but because that is awesome. I've got to hand it to the pros. They can make some really neat shit. There's a lot of costumes that I'm like, man, if I had $1 million, I could totally make that.
But you bitch poor. Don't fuck no. We're not gonna do that shit when it's like super expensive. But yeah,
my best little kid story, I think, is I was cosplaying Deadpool that was cosplaying Wonder Woman. Like a really shitty, tacky Wonder Woman. And these like this pack of like 3 little kids came up to me at one point. And they were like, Wonder Woman, what in the world is wrong with you? Why do you look like that? And I'm trying to figure out how to explain, because I'm like, these are really, really little kids. They probably don't. Yeah. They probably don't know who Deadpool is. Their parents probably don't want them to know who Deadpool is. So I'm sitting here trying to explain, and I was like making up this really stupid story on the spot about being in this like really intense fight, and my skin got burned, and so I'm wearing the Deadpool part of the costume is bandages to cover that up so I can still go around and do my Wonder Woman craft. And I'm really glad they didn't ask why my hair was on the top of that. But it's probably my laugh.
If it's a really big laugh, that's me.
But then so I'm getting called over in one direction, and they're getting called over in another direction, and I walk off. I run into them later, and they come up to me with their hands on their hips, and they go, "You lied. We know who you are." Like, all mad. I was like,
but you want to know what? It's so like Deadpool, though. No, you did a perfect job, because that's so like Deadpool. Like, there's stories where kids ask him, they think he's Spider-Man. Like, there's a comic thing where he's on a bus, and this little girl goes and goes, "Spider-Man, why are you on the bus?" And he looks down at her and he goes, yeah, I ran out of webbing, so I have to go take the bus. And she leaves, and she comes back, and she gives him $1 and goes, "Here, so you can go." It's like, it's so he can go and get the next bus.
Well, They came up with their hands on their hips, and it didn't help that I was still trying to do the Deadpool pretending he was Wonder Woman, but I was still trying to do but being nice and really trying to explain being Wonder Woman. So I was doing a very fake girl voice on purpose.
Perfect. No, it sounds like you were perfect at being.
Yeah, I was like, oh, don't worry, kids. That's just because. I'm laughing now and I can't do it, but then I was so put on the spot, and it was funny because I was still looking around for my friends. I was like, oh, I'm surrounded by kids. Where are my friends? What do I do? I'm Deadpool. I'm gonna do this. And so yeah, when they came back, they were like, they all of them, they were going, my dad told me who you were. And I look up, and yeah, their dad is like a little ways off, and he's laughing at me. He's laughing because I looked at him. I was like, how could you? Like, you sold me out, man. I didn't want to do Lady Deadpool because I'm already a lady. I wanted to give Deadpool a different excuse for having boobs and pretend like they were fake. Like, he was stuffing it for Wonder Woman. That's why it was the old school Wonder Woman one piece thing.
Yeah.
Bathing suit looking one piece thing. And but I got like a really cheap shitty one on purpose. And then I got a really cheap shitty Halloween black wig that kept falling off. It was great. And I also did it that way because I knew that any convention you go to, there's going to be like 5 million Deadpools, which I noticed even more once I was doing Deadpool. Like, then it really hit me how many Deadpools were at the same convention. But yeah, they were like, you're Deadpool. You're just pretending to be Wonder Woman. So I'm sitting there like, oh, you caught me. But I didn't try to do a dude voice. I just did my normal voice at that point. I was just like, oh, you caught me.
Do you think
the jig is up?
Do you think it would did you have the little lasso?
Yes, I lost it at some point at the convention, and I ran around and made a big deal about it.
Well, I think
as Deadpool, I was running around, and my little fabric tiara and wig were falling off left and right, and I was running around going, "The lasso of truth is gone. I can't be Wonder Woman without it."
Oh, Mariasha's throwing some shade here.
Yeah.
He says, "Do you want to make it a harem again? Because he'll tag in for B-Clay since he couldn't go a distance." No. Take up for B-Clay. He had some personal issues he had to take care of, so he had to leave early. So it's not that he couldn't go. He wanted to. He wants another shot.
Oh, yeah, I don't think it was.
He wants another shot. So no.
Not anything bad that came up at all.
I'm gonna go and send this now to Ethan Van Sciver. Do you think he'll like it?
He'll like anything. He's a teddy bear.
He's gonna like that. That's adorable. I really ought to hate you, honestly, but I don't. Hi. I love you. Because you can draw that stuff so fast and easy, and
yeah, I know.
I am really sucking at converting to digital art, but it's so much easier once you do. Life is so much easier.
Okay, it looks like we have another stream coming up. We have Comic Division and our Feisty Fan.
Oh yeah, man, Feisty Fan.
So I gotta go over there.
We can end it now, I guess. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Yeah, we had the guest left. We had story time. I'm sorry about story time. We had drawing time, and we had story time.
we have a cute Kitty Van Sciver.
Yeah, we did. We successfully
struggle, which fanatics will enjoy seeing on there.
Yeah. I'm adorable. Oh, don't worry. I'm not going to get murdered if anybody finds that.
Oh no, you got the female shield. You're good.
I am a shill.
Yeah.
I am apparently selling out my own gender or something. I'm a traitor, whatever.
Wait, what? When did that happen?
Because I drew boobies, and I just am waiting for it because the 16-year-old girl or whatever was drawing Tumblr art on but being very judgmental on the Fire Emblem fan base last night, and so Nightwolf brings me on, and I redraw every single one of the characters.
Oh, nice. With boobs?
Yeah, with boobs.
Even the dudes?
Yes, even the dudes.
Hell yes.
They all get boobs.
Yes.
But that just to tell you, if you've never played that game is meant for women. Like the first game that was ever released had only sexy men from the 80s. Anime 80s men. And I was like, yeah, I know who the demographic was.
Yeah, I do hear about that game more from my I have not played and I've been interested, but mostly because I hear about like my chick friends gushing about the game. But what's funny is when I ask, so what kind of game is it and what is it about? They immediately go into, well, you can either bang this person or this person or this person. And so that you can get a kid with these stats or those stats. And I'm like, so is this like a dating sim with like a war theme going on?
Only two of them have ever done this. This is mostly what makes people like the game is that it's a tactic JRPG, but when a character dies, they stay dead.
Woot.
Yep, that is the whole entire premise of the story is that person's gonna die, you will never get them back. And yeah. So that is your whole entire thing. But I guess I'll
say it is that the past couple of games were that it even registered on my radar of games that I might be interested in. And so that might be why, is because all of a sudden like half the girls I knew were playing it.
Yeah, well, it's new to the US. They didn't bring out the old ones because they thought we were dumb or something. You could check it out on Nightwolf's live stream of it. He explains it. But other than that, I guess we should go so we can go bother everybody else in their live stream.
Yes, we
and
should go
Ethan
with
started live streaming too.
What? We have to go. I have to go tell him to look at his cat while he's on his live stream. That'll be awesome.
Go.
All right.
It's called live chat. More nonsense.
All righty.
You being a drama queen.
Okay. We'll see you guys later.
Take care, all.
Yeah.